Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the session. I'm just taking a few seconds more, or rather a few minutes more, before we start the discussion. I'm just waiting for some more of you, some more people to join, and accordingly we can start and go ahead with the discussion. Okay. Just 3 minutes more, and accordingly we'll start with the discussion. I'm just waiting for some others as well to join accordingly, right? By the way, let me make it clear here. We are going for the discussion of the Sociology Paper 1, the Sociology Paper 1 that was of Mains 2021, which was conducted on 16th of January 2022. Right? We're going for that discussion today. So I'm just taking some more time, and accordingly we'll start in 2-3 minutes. Right? Let's have that much of patience. Let's just wait for others to join. Well, I do see some of you, you're already there. It's a request to all of you. If you have any query, any doubt, please, instead of poking in the middle, you can easily put down the question in the comment section. And whenever possible, I'll be taking up those questions for the discussion. Right? So if you have any question or any further doubt, just put those questions there in the comment section. And then obviously, once my discussion is over, I would like to take those questions up. So feel free to put your own questions and your doubts there, right? Chalo, just 1 or 2 minutes more, and accordingly we will start. It's a genuine request to all of you. Just let's have a little bit of patience. Enough. Let's not wait for any more time. Let's start with the discussion here itself. Okay. See, as I told you that this is a discussion of Sociology Optional Paper 1, right? Now, before I start with my discussion, let me, on the very onset only, let me tell you a few things here. Number one, in any paper, a full-size paper, there would be 28 questions. Now, if I take up 28 questions, all the 28 questions for discussion at one go, the discussion will become extremely lengthy, right? And normally, this kind of live discussions which go on, if you ask me, I would prefer not to make them more than half an hour in length. But obviously, this discussion will be a little bit more than half an hour. I don't think I'll be able to sum up the whole discussion within half an hour. So this discussion will obviously might be stretching over half an hour. But still, normally speaking, those kind of discussions, they become a little bit boring by the end of the time. So somehow I would prefer to avoid that. That's why what I have done, I have divided the paper, the first paper of Sociology Mains optional that was conducted on 16th of January 2022, as we all know. I've divided the paper into two halves. Today is the discussion of the first part. The first 14 questions will be taking them up from question number 1 to question number 4, right? And then in the second part, which will be scheduled on next Sunday, that is on 13th of February, we'll be going for the part 2, the second part of the discussion. Okay. So here today, I'm typically going for the first part that starts from question number 1, the short notes. Obviously, we all know that in question number 1, we have the 5 short notes there. And then subsequently, question number 2, 3, and 4, right? In 2, 3, and 4, we'll be having 2 long questions of 20 marks each and 1 short note of 10 marks each, right? So there would be total of 6 long questions and 3 short notes in question number 2, 3, and 4 combined, and 5 short notes in question number 1. So in all, I have 6 long questions and 8 short notes, 14 questions in all for my discussion. Okay, I hope I'm properly audible to you all. Just asking for one more time to verify because it's showing that my internet connection is a little bit unstable. Uh, Obviously, it might be. We all know about the conditions of internet nowadays. Uh, Obviously, it's a fault on our side as well. Anyway, let's go forward with the streaming. And again, this was the first aspect that I told you that I'm going to divide the paper into two halves, right? Two parts rather, part one and part two. Today is the part one. And simultaneously, before starting with the discussion, let me make a few more things clear. I have been going through number of questions written by people who have appeared this once they came back, they have been discussing the answers that they have written. I was also going forward with the discussion of other people. See, please, again and again, I would say sociology is a very beautiful subject. Don't start cramming and mugging here, right? I've seen answers written by those aspirants who have appeared this time, number of such answers, where it seems that they have tried to bombard the answers with names of various scholars and thinkers. Don't do that. Understand the concepts properly. If you can discuss the concepts along with relevant examples, with suitable examples, even that's good. You don't have to bombard with the answers unnecessarily with the names of various thinkers. Please don't do that. It's a very unhealthy way of writing answers. In most of the answers, I hardly found any concept being discussed, but since the person had marked or crammed so many thinkers, the person felt like that just let's bombard as if we are going to a war, so let's drop bombs of the names of various thinkers in the answers. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's not actually the right way of writing answer. Whenever you're writing answer, please deal with the conceptual part first, right? Deal with the concepts part first, and then if you have the works of various thinkers, if you have the works of various scholars, fine, substantiate your answer, the concept that you have discussed, with the works of those scholars or those thinkers. If you do not, not an issue. Take up a relevant example, and with the help of that relevant example, you can also justify yourself. Please try and understand the logic here. You, me, we are no sociologists. A sociologist is a very big term. Someone who's even a PhD degree holder may hardly call himself or herself a sociologist. So let's not go for that term sociologist. We are not sociologists. Okay. So what can we do? Someone just getting a master's degree in sociology or doing a PhD in sociology does not make that person a sociologist. A sociologist is someone who has dedicated his life, his or her life, to the subject of sociology. So please don't loosely use that word. The very first thing. Simultaneously, I would also say that so naturally, when we write something, when we say something, what's the what's the validation of that? Who would validate what we are saying? So we need to justify what we are saying or what we are writing, right? It is from that point I would say that whenever you write something, whenever you say something, please justify your answer. And for justification of the answer, you don't have to bombard the answer with the names of so many works or so many thinkers. No. Again, please use case studies or examples, even they are good enough. They are good enough to justify your answers. Right? Now let's take up the questions one by one. The first question, as I look at, the first question is talking about, this is question number 1A, which reads, Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. Comment. I would like to go a little bit in depth in details about this particular question. We know on the very first hand, what is modernity? Modernity is not about wearing modern dresses. Modernity is not about having meal in Pizza Hut or in or going to Walmart or something of that sort. No, it's not. Modernity means the basic idea of modernity is of rational thinking, rise of scientific thinking. That's modernity, right? No doubt we are seeing that it is in Europe post French Revolution and Renaissance we would look at the rise of scientific thinking in Europe, and as a result, it is in that backdrop that we see the the scientific revolution and the industrial revolution subsequently. So yes, it is in Europe that modernity rose for the first time. But to say that's the only place where modernity rose, that's going to be wrong. Because history tells us, even in India, the era of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Devendranath Tagore, right, all these people, even in India, we are looking at rise of modernity during that age. So no doubt, the first part of the question, that Europe was the first place where modernity emerged, yes, absolutely right. But to say that Europe is the only place where modernity emerged, that's not wrong. That's not right. That's wrong, right? So while commenting on that, obviously I'll be using these two particular aspects and I'll be talking about in that sense. Again, I don't have to use thinkers here to justify my answer. These examples are good enough, right? So please, you don't have to bombard the answers with the names of thinkers. Be careful, right? Number two, do you think ethnomethodology helps us in getting reliable and valid data? Okay. Ethnomethodology, we all know what ethnomethodology is. It is practically the study of the social order, right? Social order rising out of social interaction. It is interaction among people, it is interaction among groups, which is ultimately giving or establishing order in the society. Ethnomethodology is the typical study of that particular aspect. Harold Garfinkel, we all know the name, and it is from there that it is from him that the process of ethnomethodology rises in sociology as well. I'm looking at two particular works here. Now here even I am using. Why? I remember. If you don't have to, right? I am looking at the two works of Kevin Whitehead, right? One is the work of Kevin Whitehead, 2009, and the other work is a little bit just a year old, C.M. Scarf. C.M. Scarf, she submitted her book. She wrote a book actually by the name Critical Discourse Studies. 2008, she would write this book. This book would be published. In that book, she is talking about the doing class approach, where she actually studied 40 women, 40 German and English women, and the discourse among them, right? So that's why the name of the book is Critical Discourse Studies. From there as well, she is talking about how order is being restored through interaction. And then again, even in the works of Kevin Whitehead, Kevin Whitehead is studying. He actually wrote the paper, which was published in Social Psychology Quarterly. The Social Psychology Quarterly. This is volume number 72 actually, if I remember rightly. I don't. I assume that's the right figure. Yeah, 72. Okay. There he is writing about this particular discussion, where he's talking about the racial discourse. He's talking about the race training that goes on in the organizations, so that people in work, they don't inadvertently racially discriminate against each other. That doesn't happen. That's why this race training that happens. So he was looking at that, and from there he particularly went for these studies. So if I look at these two studies, what is that? Yes, the methodological approach, in a limited sense, is giving me valid and reliable data. So I can justify that with the help of these two works. Okay. Then I'm going for the third question. Discuss challenges involved in collecting data through census method. A typical example of how the recent developments, they triggered questions in sociology. How? Two things, two triggers. Trigger number one, this is the main trigger. 2021 was a census year. The census should have had come out. Didn't. Why? Given the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We know that the government of India, they have allocated an amount of money for the census. The census is supposed to start in 2022, and the report would be made public by 23-24. Right? That's the idea. So that's about the census. So the census got delayed this time because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's one challenge I'm looking at. At the same point of time, in February 2020, if I remember rightly, there was a program in Rajya Sabha television, a program called the Big Picture. In the big picture, they were talking about the challenges which the field enumerators, as they're called, they were facing. Field enumerators who went to go to conduct the national sample survey, they also were facing some of the challenges. Number of them in Kerala, in Andhra Pradesh, in Assam, they were roughed up. Lot of things happened because of the fear, the inherent fear among the people about that those CA and NRC and all these things which are going on at that point of time. Because of that, there was an inherent fear among the people, and yes, these incidences they happened, right? Given that, yes, it was becoming a challenge for uh, conducting the census. There was a security issue of the field enumerators. Now, it is in this backdrop that this question has been raised. Okay, typically do understand how the recent developments they're triggering the challenges. The way, even this time, if you look at the total amount of budget allocation, no doubt that's more than the allocation of last time. That means census is gradually becoming cumbersome and gradually becoming far more expensive. The way we conduct census, the way we go to door and the census is conducted, that's no doubt becoming somehow a bit cumbersome. Okay. At the same point of time, I would also be saying this that uh, say the gated communities, quite often than not we see that the field enumerators, they are actually not allowed within the gated communities. The watchmen who are there in the gated communities, they don't allow the census the field enumerators to go inside. Quite often than not, even the people, they don't feel very comfortable to talk to the field enumerators. They feel it to be intrusive in their personal space. So quite often than not, they don't share proper data, or they don't welcome these people properly. So a lot of such challenges are happening there, right? These kind of number of such challenges. I have already enumerated 4 challenges. Challenge number one, the 4 5 actually. Number one, the expensive way of doing census, the huge amount of expenses. Number two, problem in terms of access to the person, say because of the gated communities. Number three, the issue of intrusion within the private space, right? Number four, I talked about the security issue, those field enumerators being roughed up as it happened. And number five, I'm also talking about this kind of pandemic situations, pandemic and epidemic. It becomes genuinely difficult to conduct the census, right? So if you talk about the challenges, this question is typically about the challenges involved in collecting data. So I think this is sufficient enough. Obviously, there are mechanisms to deal with it, but since the question is not asking, already the government of India has started a number of such mechanisms. Say, for example, interlinking of the data. Say, linking of PAN with Aadhaar, right? At the same point of time, this correct linking of Aadhaar with a number of other services, DBT. Through these, obviously, when this kind of linking is happening, obviously that through that process as well, we can understand who is where and what that person is doing, or the total number of head counts and everything that can be found out from there as well, right? If that process gets completed, so through the registration process and these kind of processes, through those processes as well, we can gradually replace, or we can find out better alternatives for census. But that's a separate issue that has not been asked in the question, so let's not talk about that. If you talk about the challenges, I've already discussed 5 challenges, 5 possible challenges of the census, right? Next is explain whether Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant in present day context. I'm reading the question again. Please understand the question. Listen to the question very carefully and understand the question. Explain whether Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant in the present day context. What is Durkheim talking about in the division of labor? He is saying that given the difference in the degree of technological level, there happens a difference in degree of division of labor in certain societies. The societies where the degree of division of labor is less, those are categorized as simpler societies. The Societies where the degree of division of labor is more, those societies are categorized as complex societies. The simpler societies are marked by mechanical solidarity. The complex societies are marked by organic solidarity. In simpler societies, given any kind of, say, someone breaking any rule or any norm, the ego of the society, the collective ego, that gets hurt very easily. As a result, the legal system in such societies, they're very harsh, they're repressive. On the other hand, in the complex societies marked by organic solidarity, here people, they know that they need each other. As a result, the purpose of law in such societies is to maintain the balance, restitutive law, right? I'm typically looking at the debate, the ongoing debate about India versus Bharat. Bharat, rural India, 70% of the population living there, right? Yes, gradually we are making improvements in terms of farm mechanization, agricultural output, number of things are increasing and improving, right? We're looking at a little bit of increase in division of labor. But still, in comparison to the urban India, that's marked as India in those debates, the degree of division of labor in the rural backdrop, in the rural hinterland, is lesser. So we can easily call Bharat, that idea of Bharat, the rural India, as simpler society. Simpler, not simple. Be careful. Simpler. That means relatively simple. And similarly, the urban India, we can easily call that complex, more complex in nature. Simpler and more complex. That's the understanding. There's a difference. So I do see that. And when I talk about the repressive law and all those things, I am still looking at honor killing. I'm still looking at khap panchayat, these kind of systems. No. So isn't the law genuinely repressive still in those particular societies, in that particular backdrop? Those particular societies, it's our society only, but in that particular backdrop, given the nature, can't I find the relevance here? Now be careful, all the thinkers, they are still relevant today. Okay, it's not just about the division of labor of Emile Durkheim that still has got relevance. Similarly, suicide has also its relevance. Similarly, elementary forms of religious life, that also has its relevance here in Indian society. Even other theories, they also have their relevances, right? So be careful about these kind of questions. They can be asked. Further, these kind of questions can be asked. Even previously, we have seen UPSC to ask question about the relevance of the suicide in understanding the increased suicide rate here in India, farmer suicide or student suicide in Kota, right? Up to understand those aspects. Clear? So this is another way of looking at the thinkers. So again and again, please be careful about the relevance of the thinkers. Okay. See, thinkers, they're gone. Even the most recent one that whom we study is Robert King Merton, who died in 2003. Right? If you talk about Karl Marx died in 1883. So question is, why are we studying them? This examination is not a mere academic exercise as we do in colleges and in universities. This particular examination has its own aspect of understanding, right? It's not just about mugging and cramming the theories. It's more about understanding the relevance of those theories in present day scenario, whom we are studying, right? So obviously, please do relate those thinkers and their theories with the present day context, right? And that's why in the beginning, I told you, you don't have to bombard the answers with so many thinkers and so many works. Okay. Next, critically examine Max Weber's theory of social stratification. We know that Max Weber's discussion of social stratification is perhaps one of the most comprehensive one, right? Where Weber he talks about the three particular dimensions of class, status, and party. Where he's talking about the economic dimension of stratification, he's talking about the social prestige, that dimension of social honor, dimension of stratification, and the political power as another dimension of stratification. This is perhaps, as we know, the most comprehensive understanding of social stratification, right? In comparison to Karl Marx, where it was completely economic deterministic in nature, this is far more comprehensive, no doubt. But then again, isn't Weber dividing the society into two strata only? Those who yield political power, those on whom political power is yielded. That's it. Say, for example, when I talk about class, economic aspect of stratification, right? I know that in my society there is a class called BPL, below poverty line. Then there is a lower middle class. Then there is a middle class. Then there is the upper middle class. Then there is the upper class. Middle class is a major concept to be understood in paper 2. If I follow typical Weberian perspective, middle class there. Now, so it is in that sense that the discussion of Weber is not properly complete. Then again, why just in that respect? Even in terms of political party, right? Party. Those who yield political power, those on whom political power is yielded. There is also a middle leg, the opposition. Rather, I would say the theory of circulation of elites of Wilfredo Pareto is far more relevant here, or even the discussion of C.W. Mills, power elite. It's not just so simple that there are two particular strata only, those who yield political power and those on whom the political power is yielded. No, it's not so simple. There's so many other layers as well. So in that sense, somehow, there is a drawback in the discussion of Weber or in Weberian understanding, right? Even in terms of social prestige, tell me about the caste system here in India. Effectively, mark my word, effectively, I'm looking at 5 caste categories. The scriptures are telling me about 4 caste categories: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. But I know effectively there is a 5th caste category of Ati Shudra, or the untouchables, right? That's how it was. Please be careful. Not today. Shouldn't be there today. But that's how the understanding was. Clear? So it's not so simple of those yielding power and those on whom power is yielded. The discussion is not so simple, right? So in that sense, yes, this is a drawback of the Weberian understanding. So that's how I'm going for the classical, the critical analysis or critical examination of Weberian discussion of social stratification, right? Then I'm looking at the next question, that from the point of growing importance of multidisciplinarity, how do you relate sociology to other social sciences? Guys, I know this discussion is going to be a bit lengthy. Obviously, 14 questions. I've just finished 5 short notes. Okay, so please be. I would try to take lesser amount of time. I know I have been. I was getting a little bit emotional, and I was discussing in a broader way. I'll try to reduce it, but still, I would be needing some time at least to discuss number of these questions. The growing importance of multidisciplinarity. The first one who's showing me this need for multidisciplinarity is one of the pioneering thinkers only, G.H. Mead, symbolic interactionism. Mead is originally a psychologist who's giving me an approach which is a multidisciplinary approach, where I'm looking at the dialectical process of sociological approach and psychological approach, self and the mind. Self is what? A sociological process whereby the social experience is gained, processed, and then subsequently passed on to the psychological process called mind. Now, please try and understand the society has no obligation. The society and the real life world order has no obligation to bind itself in any one particular form of the discipline. It would be happening in its own course. It doesn't care about the disciplines. The disciplines like sociology, economics, psychology, they have to adapt themselves to better understand those aspects. right? You just tell me about the issue of poverty and growth, right? Concept is a social concept as well, economical concept as well, economic concept as well. Similarly, it's also a concept to be dealt with in political science. Why not? Simultaneously, when we talk about development, whether I look at the parameters of Human Development Index, or I look at the parameters of GMPI, Global Multidimensional Poverty, or I look at the parameters of Happiness Index, they are all social parameters, aren't they? Right? But as such, they are known to be indices working in the field of economics. See, we study things from the point of view of one particular discipline, but that's not how things happen in the society, in the real life world order. So yes, if we have to understand things holistically, that is the requirement of sociology as well, and of the policymakers as well, what you aspire to be. Yes, your approach has to be multidisciplinary. Clear? Similarly, I'm looking at how far, that's question number 2b. This was question number 2a. Now I'm going for question number 2b. How far are sociologists justified in using positivist approach to understand social reality? Right? Explain with suitable illustrations. No doubt, to a certain extent, the positivists, they give us a basic understanding. Say, for example, the mob psychology. Mobs, they do not have faces. In politics and society, I'm talking about mob there, right? No doubt, mobs, they do not have faces, and number of other aspects I can understand. But to understand things to their entirety, no. Along with positivism, I need to have other aspects as well, other methodologies of understanding as well. That's where we talk about the criticism of positivistic methodology. So no doubt positivistic methodology is showing me certain aspects properly, where the notion of collectivity is at work. But that's not everything. There is something beyond this as well. Clear? Next, how is sociology straightforward question? Obviously, as I told you that I'm going to make this is such a straightforward question. Uh, I don't know whether I should be taking up this question here or not. Fine, let's talk about it. We know the drawbacks of common sense. It lacks the rigor, the scientific approach, the objectivity that is required. No doubt, common sense in certain respects, they give us the true result. But given lacking in these aspects, we cannot compare common sense with any discipline as such, whether sociology or economics or psychology or political science. No, common sense has its limitation, given the lack of rigor in study, the lack of proper approach, a systematic approach in study, right? On one occasion or two, it may click, but that's an off chance, right? So in this way, we all know about the discussion between common sense and sociology, and that's genuinely a pretty straightforward question. Next, how do qualitative and quantitative methods supplement each other in sociological inquiry? We know this is a newly emerging trend. Okay, I don't know. I would like to share some of the scholarly articles on this in the description of this video, if possible. The link of those scholarly articles. Both quantitative approach and qualitative approach, they had their own limitations. Quantitative approach cannot understand number of qualitative aspects, whereas qualitative approach cannot properly tell us about the quantitative extent of things happening in the society. So nowadays, a new method people it's becoming far more popular, where people are trying to work upon this combined approach of complementing the two with each other. There are limitations as well, right? In fact, if I'm not wrong, I do have a case study here. Right. The Accra Food and Nutrition Security Study. right? The study was properly talked about in a number of research papers. The Accra is in Ghana. Okay, the Accra Food and Nutrition Security Study. Typically, both the methods they were combined here, and accordingly the study was conducted. Right. So, if possible, I would like to share the paper on this particular discussion. At the same point of time, so yes, this is one of the newly emerging areas, given the previous drawbacks of the individual two mechanisms. To deal with that, that's why this has been brought together. In fact, what I'm looking at, that a system of improved survey, and at the same point of time, the way these two systems, they actually complementing each other in dealing with the drawbacks. That's why. Okay. So yes, that's another area. Next, I'm looking at critically examine the dialectical method, or critically examine the dialectics involved in each mode of production as propounded by Karl Marx. Dialectics. Dialectics of Hegel, dialectics of G.H. Mead is separate. I mentioned about the dialectics of Hegel, the dialectical process of G.H. Mead a few while back, while talking about the self and mind. Yes, Mead also used the word dialectical process to discuss the relationship between self and mind. That's separate. Dialectics of Karl Marx is separate. Karl Marx is drawing this idea of dialectics from the dialectical idealism of Hegel. That's why continuously Hegel was coming out of my mouth. Okay. The process of dialectics is more about conflict, right? The discussion about the dominant material condition, that is thesis, and its antithesis, which is rising in the society, the clash between the two, and because of the clash between this thesis and the antithesis, the new synthesis that is rising in the higher horizon, which is far more better than this thesis and antithesis, than this layer. With period of time, this synthesis itself turns into thesis, and its own antithesis emerges. Say, for example, I'm talking about the ancient society, as talked about, the ancient mode of production, as talked about by uh, Karl Marx. I'm looking at, it's actually called the slave mode of production, the ancient society and the slave mode of production. The masters, that is a thesis, and the slaves, the antithesis, and the dialectics between the two, right? Similarly, the next phase. Given this dialectical process, a new phase emerges, that medieval social order or the feudal mode of production. What's happening? The medieval social order, I'm looking at the thesis, that is the feudal lords, and the antithesis, that is the serfs, and the clash between the two. And as a result of that clash, a new synthesis is emerging, that is the capitalist social order or the modern society, right? I am intentionally not breaking it down further. I assume that since you are listening to paper analysis, so at least I hope, I'm assuming that the basic study of sociology has been completed by you. So if the basic study of sociology has been completed by you, you do know what I'm talking about, right? Marx's historical materialism, where he's talking about the five modes of production, and in the modes of production, how he is showing the various the process of dialectics playing there. That's what the demand of the question is. The dialectical process between the masters and the serfs, the feudal the masters and the slaves, the feudal lords and the serfs, and the bourgeois and the proletariat. Right? That's the main theme of this particular question. Again, read the question. Critically examine the dialectics involved in each mode of production as propounded by Karl Marx. Right? Marx says that in primitive communism and in socialistic social order, I would not be I won't be able to find the process of dialectics there. But in the three particular modes of production in between, the ancient mode of production or slave mode of production, the feudal mode of production, and the capitalist mode of production, I am looking at the mechanism of dialectics here, right? Then I'm looking at the next question, that do you agree with Weber's idea that bureaucracy has the potential to become an iron cage? No doubt. That's what Weber is saying, right? Not just Weber is saying, yes, I do agree. What happens? Bureaucracy, the system of legal rational authority, right? Weber has used bureaucracy at two different areas. Weber has used bureaucracy as an example of ideal type, where he talked about the six characteristics of bureaucracy. He again took up bureaucracy in the discussion of legal rational authority, right? What is the job of bureaucracy? To rationalize the system and make it far more efficient. The modern complex society, in the understanding of Weber, is going to be far more rationally oriented and far more efficient. And it is the bureaucracy as a driving force who's trying to make it far more efficient. While trying to make it far more efficient, naturally the bureaucracy would try to get rid of all the variable factors, right? Creativity and others. And gradually, yes, the more systematized they would try to make the things, start becoming far more in the form of rational iron cage. No doubt about it, right? Whether you talk about the social security number in US and linking of the social security number with every aspect of the personal lives of the people in US, right? Similarly, I'm looking at the various mechanisms, laws and rules, even in the smallest possible areas of life, where nothing is being left to chances or nothing is being left to the personal whims and fancies of the individuals, right? Starting from our decorum in public to everything, how the things are, the bureaucracy is trying to systematize. I'm looking at European society, and I'm seeing how, in the name of restoring order, the bureaucracy and the system of governance, they're becoming a little bit gradually bit more and more intrusive, even in the private space. That's the debate that's rising now, right? This is also the debate that was raised in Justice K.S. Puttaswamy and others versus Union of India in Aadhaar verdict, where the Supreme Court, yes, they ultimately recognize that no privacy is something to be of significance. They consider privacy to be a part of dignity, as in as protected by Article 21. So today, the understanding, not the words, the understanding of Article 21 is right to life with dignity, which also includes privacy and personal liberty, right? So that's how the discussion is there. So no doubt, yes, that thing is happening here. Simultaneously, I'm looking at the concept, the next question, that is 4A. I've already covered 3. 3A was about qualitative and quantitative method, them complementing and supplementing each other. 3B was about critical examination of the dialectics involved in each mode of production. Question number 3C was about Weber and his idea of bureaucracy, right? Bureaucracy and rational iron cage, the linkage between the two. 4. Now 4A. 4A talks about explain the concept of social mobility. Again, a very straightforward concept. But be careful while talking about social mobility. Please do mention about the vertical and horizontal mobility, both, right? So quite often than not, what happens, just because we know that, just because we say, okay, this is a very simple notion, we know this, we ignore some of the aspects. Don't do that. Okay. So all the aspects should be properly answered. So when talking about social mobility, yes, do mention about both the vertical and the horizontal mobility. Okay. Next area that I'm looking at, same question, 3A only. Describe with suitable illustrations how education and social mobility are related to each other. Starting from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to K.R. Narayanan to APJ Abdul Kalam, to so many examples, right? Clear? What am I looking at? How education is becoming an enabler and something which is empowering people. The role that is being played by education in promoting social mobility, and mostly vertical mobility. Why mostly vertical mobility? Promoting vertical mobility. How education is becoming a factor of social change and is bringing in mobility in terms of rising upward. Sorry, because of the bob. Right. So in that sense, I'm going to look at the relationship between education and social mobility here. Use these examples. Why not? Right? B.R. Ambedkar, the area from where he's coming, the community from where he's coming, Mahar community of Maharashtra, and the way they were treated. Even the stories, the life stories of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, meant to sit outside the classroom to study and all these aspects. Yes, absolutely. Right? Link them. Fine. At the same point of time, if possible, also include the discussion of dominant caste of M.N. Srinivas here. Why not? Am I not looking at education in the 6 parameters of dominant caste? Right? So please do include that. At the same point of time, also talk about education as a parameter in the report of the second backward classes commission. That is this Mandal Commission, BB Mandal Commission. The parameter of education there as well, educational backwardness. It is the idea of ACBC, socially and educationally backward classes. That's why the first backward classes commission, the Kaka commission, and then subsequently the second backward classes commission, the BP Mandal commission was formed. Na? So please talk about those aspects there. Education as a factor of social mobility, and this mobility is practically what? It's representative of change within the society, right? And use Dr. B.R. Ambedkar properly, use K.R. Narayanan properly here. Not an issue. Okay. Next. How has the idea of work from home forced us to redefine formal and informal organization of work? Again, a typical example of how the current affairs is influencing our understandings. The recent developments are influencing our understandings. Yes, we are, see, in sociology it is always said that change is the only constant. Right? Now, what is the differentiation between formal and informal organization of work? Right? It is in that respect, say a proper given workplace, scheduled hours of work, and in that respect, talk about the work from home concept, where even we are looking at flexible work hours. In the name of flexible work hours, when a person is working from home, the new phenomena is that practically the person is working from morning to night. The companies are saying you're working from home, so what's the problem, right? So flexible work hours. In the name of flexible work hours, the kind of continuity in work that's going on, the whole day is getting into work, right? So those aspects, they are also to be included here. These were the features. This flexible work hours and all. They were the features of the informal work, right? So now they're becoming part of the formal work as well, formal organization of work as well. Previously, the idea was that a formally organized work would be guided by the labor laws, 8 hours of work, and that's it. Right? Nowadays, tell me, when a person is working from home, early in the morning, the office boss is calling up and giving him some task, and the work is going on till late at night. So what is this? Right? In that sense, yes, we have to redefine our understandings. Next, the last question that I'm taking up for today. It's already 48 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm again saying sorry for this. See, obviously, if I have to properly discuss the questions, I'll be needing some time. In fact, this is the reason why I decided to break up the discussion into 2 parts. The way we are doing a discussion in paper one, in respect to paper one, similarly, we'll also be doing a discussion on paper two as well. Paper one is being divided into 2 parts. Part one is being discussed today. Part two, as I have told you, is scheduled for next week. Similarly, we'll also announce a schedule for paper two as well. And paper two also would be divided into 2 parts, part one and part two. Right? I'm going for the last question. With suitable examples, explain how conformity and deviance coexist in a society as propounded by R.K. Martin. Right? Conformity and deviance. The discussion of social structure and anomy, that book of Robert King Merton, if you remember, right? As part of that particular, not culture, structure, and anomy, no, social structure and anomy, that particular discussion. Okay, deviance theory of deviance. So there I'm looking at this discussion, right? Yes, they both exist in society. If on one hand, say for example, if I'm looking at Daud Ibrahim, a person who innovated, if I'm looking at the rise of the various organized crime bosses like Bablu Srivastava and others, on the other hand, I'm also looking at the likes of T.N. Session, M.K. Narayanan, Ajit Doval, right? Both of them. At the same point of time, I would be talking about Anil Swarup. I'll be talking about even Ashok Khemka, right? conformist to the core, I would be taking these names. Why not? Clear? So at the same point of time, they both are existing in the society, right? Use these examples, not an issue, not a problem. We can, we can very easily. But still, no doubt, people, some other people, they tried to innovate. They innovated and they gave rise to deviance in the society. But at the same point of time, I do also have conformist. You yourself, you're a very big example of the conformist. What are you doing? You have an ambition, a goal which is culturally accepted goal, becoming a civil servant. And you also have the means to achieve that goal, that is to prepare, appear in the civil service examination, crack the examination, and get into that mold. Why not? Right? So even you, while going through this particular process, you are also conformist. Better not to use yourself as an example here, but I've given you the names: Ajit Doval, T.N. Seshan, M.K. Narayanan, Anil Swarup, then Ashok Khemka. So many names are there now. Use them. We can properly use them. Not an issue, right? So that's all about these particular questions here. These first set of 14 questions that I talked about. Now, if you have any question, you can easily ask those questions, right? And once again, I know it's already 51 minutes of discussion, and these kind of discussions, when they stretch for long, they genuinely become boring. I'm really sorry for that, guys. Okay. Anyway, the platform is open to you. If you have any question, any doubt, do feel free to ask the questions. I'm just looking below because my screen is below, so that I can see. Actually, I'm looking at the comment section there. So if any comment comes, that's why I'm waiting. Chalo, till now we do not have any comment here, but I'll keep a watch. Even subsequently, if a comment comes, we'll try to answer those comments to the best of our ability. Okay. I think there must be some problem as well, because continuously it has been showing throughout the period. It has been showing that my internet connection is unstable. So sorry in that note. I don't know how much audible I was, whether I was properly audible at all or not. Uh, let's see how it turns out. Okay, that's all, guys. Thank you. And yes, as I was saying, that we'll be having an eye on the comment section. If any comment comes, I'll be answering those comments to the best of my ability. Okay, that's all. Thank you everyone, and thank you for attending this.